Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. My name is Katie and I make book-related videos every single Wednesday, and today I'm going to be reviewing The Girls by Emma Cline, and this definitely seemed to be sort of the book of the summer of 2016. It just really took the world by storm. So I'll go over a quick summary and then the pros and cons, and as always this will be spoiler free as usual. The Girls takes place in 1969. Our narrator is 14-year-old Evie. She's very awkward and insecure, as most 14-year-olds are. That part was done very realistically. Her parents are divorced and she's going through quite a few family issues, and one day she meets a 19-year-old Suzanne who's just beautiful and very odd and mysterious. Evie becomes sort of very infatuated and interested in Suzanne, and she ends up being Evie's connection to the rest of this group, who's led by a man named Russell, who's hoping to be a famous musician. The premise of this book is based off of the Manson murders, which I'm sure you all are familiar with. That's not a spoiler, that's just sort of a self-evident fact of this book. And I assume you guys know what the Manson murders are. I just assume because of the type of books I read and talk about, and if you're subscribed. I guess that's kind of a weird fact to say about my subscribers, that if you're subscribed to me, then you probably know what the Manson murders are, but I'm assuming you guys do. So that's all I'll say in terms of the plot, so we'll get into the pros and the cons. So first we can go ahead and get into the pros, and the first, and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really enjoy this book, so there's only really one main pro I have for this book, but it is a big one, and that is the writing. The writing was very lovely and much better than I was anticipating. This is definitely much more of a character study than a thriller, which I sort of expected going into it based off of a couple of things that people had told me when I said I was gonna read this. So the writing was fantastic, although sometimes it did just start to feel a little bit overwrought and pretentious. But overall, like 90% of the time, I would say I did really enjoy the writing. Another factor I really enjoyed, now that I'm thinking about it, is the fact that Cline did not attempt to sort of glamorize Russell and his group. I really thought, just because this was based off of the Manson murders and the cult, that they were going to try and sort of glamorize and almost make it, not sexy is probably the bad word, but just to try and glamorize that type of lifestyle. And she definitely does not try and do that whatsoever, so I thought that was fantastic. So now I'll get into the cons, and this con is sort of broad, but it's overarching and kind of hits on every aspect of the book, but it's just that I was flat out not interested in anyone or anything going on in this book. I don't know if Cline was trying to aim for the fact that she was just a very generic, insecure 14-year-old, so she was trying to stress that this really could happen to anyone. Maybe that's what she's going for, but just reading the book, I was not remotely interested in Evie. And I don't need all of my narrators to be either completely demented or completely perfect, or just to have insane qualities about them to keep me interested, but there was just nothing about her voice that grabbed me or that made me want to care about what happened to her. And that kind of goes for all the other characters as well. And like I said, I am actually really happy that Cline didn't try and glamorize Russell and his group, or the cult, whatever you want to refer to it as, because I think the fact she didn't do that, that was unexpected. But I still think there could have been a way to not glamorize them as a whole and what they did, but also make it somewhat interesting, because I will just say, right at the beginning of the book, you're aware that there's going to be murdering happening at the end of the book, but there was no sense of tension or build up, at least for me, whatsoever. Maybe other people reading it felt it, but I just flat out didn't. Not only was I not interested in Evie, I wasn't interested in Russell, I wasn't interested in Suzanne, I wasn't interested in her family. Like I said, this is a character study, which I love slow-paced character studies. I don't want people to think that I only love fast-paced thrillers, because if you watch my channel, you know that's not the case, but if it's going to be a character study, I need to be interested in at least some of the characters. And going back to the pacing, one book I think this is slightly similar to is Dark Places by Gillian Flynn, because also with that book, when it starts off, you have the knowledge that a group of people is murdered, and then at the end of the book, you're going to hear exactly what happened. But with Dark Places, there is that sense of sort of tension and buildup that I just didn't get from this book. It also felt as if there was quite a fair amount of almost repetition. I understand that Evie is an insecure 14-year-old, but that is stressed so heavily throughout the book. It felt as if 50% of the book was that, and I think there could have been a way to do it sort of more succinctly and more effectively. I did hear that a ton of people were reading this book, but just happened to not have heard any reviews before this, so it wasn't as if this book came hyped up to me and I knew of so many 5-star reviews and then it was a letdown. I really didn't have a ton of expectations going into it, but I sort of finished the book and immediately forgot main characters' names, and it just didn't hold me in any significant way. So yeah, overall, The Girls by Emma Cline was a bit of a letdown. There were some aspects I really enjoyed, like the writing, but overall it just didn't grip or hold me really whatsoever. But of course, if you loved it, that's not to discount it and say it was a terrible book. Of course, this is just my reactions and how I felt about it. So I am really interested to hear what you guys thought about it. I actually need to leave because I have class in about 20 minutes and I'm a 20-minute drive away, so I should head out now. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. You can hit the subscribe button here if you haven't yet, and I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Bye.